Planetary Health First, Mars Next, a Michael Mann production. We are on a mission to transform healthcare, one where all equally benefit, by building a dynamic, robust, diverse community. Join us on this journey. One parsec at a time, we will be transforming healthcare together. Well, happy Thursday. It's an awesome Thursday. Today we are talking all things cloud, AI, digital modernization, and health equity. We got a special guest, Lonnie Buchanan, and man, he is all things IT. I don't want to say how many years he's done it because I might get into his age, but he's done it for a long time. And I would before I introduce Lonnie, I just want those who might be new to Planetary Health First, just want to let you know we're a podcast. We run every Thursday, 6 p.m. I am the host, Michael Mann. I am the managing director at DeSanti. We're a talent acquisition firm. We focus on executive retained search and staff augmentation. I'm focusing on building the healthcare practice. And Lonnie is our special guest here. He's a consultant. He's a thought leader, architect, and futurist in healthcare technology and business strategy. He sits on the HIMSS Social Determinants of Health Committee, is a member of the Fast Company Executive Board, and has been named one of the world's 10 foremost health leaders to watch in 2022 in CXO Outlook magazine. He is currently the CEO of Obvious Architecture and vice president of the Light of the World Ministry. Prior to this work, he worked as a chief architect and executive security director for Veracity Solutions. There he consulted and oversaw architecture, development, quality control, and security teams that deployed enterprise-wide systems and digital transformation across various industries, including healthcare. Buchanan was also the director of enterprise for Intermountain Health, where among the many areas he oversaw, he was the lead design and implementation of the remote telemedical group. This initiative won Microsoft's 2015 Innovation in Healthcare Award and XMatter's 2015 Best Cloud Migration. Among his many other roles, he has been a leader by establishing various information system teams and departments for Intermountain Health, Select Health, and Rocky Mountain Health Plans. Buchanan was a comprehensive skill set that includes strategic and thought leadership, enterprise architecture, software development, data engineering, cloud administration, security, quality assurance, and organizational governance. He also possesses years of extensive experience in healthcare, health-related work in the payer, provider, pharma, and life sciences verticals. He is a sought-after public speaker and a futurist who says he is still trying to change the world one life at a time. Well, man, it is so great to have you here. I don't know what you're going to add to that, but if there's anything else, Lonnie, please share with us.
I think that's enough, Michael. I appreciate you having me on the show. I appreciate you taking the time and talking about some really important things, in particular around health equality and health equity.
Well, it's great to have you here. It's great to have our amazing audience here as well. We would love for you to join us, engage with us. If you have any thoughts specifically about AI or cloud, let us know. Shout out, let us know, post your comment. Lonnie's here. This is about all of us together as a community. So let's start before we get into. Just help me out. Help us out. You're now at Obvious Architecture. What is up with the name, and what do you guys do?
So really the idea about Obvious Architecture is trying to empower others to create and transform and grow through some type of knowledge and understanding. It goes back to a situation many, many years ago where I was asked to design a system. And I presented that system to the chief operating officer at that time, stack of papers about this thick, asked him to review it. He said, I'll review it. I went back a week later, asked him if he reviewed it. He said, nope, didn't review it. I said, well, you need to take a look at it before we get going. And he goes, yep, I'll do it. I went back the next week. I said, did you review it? He goes, no, I didn't. And I said, you really, really need to take a look at it. And I went back the third week and I said, did you review it? And he says, yes, I did. And he slapped it down on the table and he says, more pictures, less words. And that began the drive of understanding that there's a lot of fluff and a lot of ancillary things when we develop and design technology that we don't really need to do. I mean, things that aren't necessarily security or privacy or focused around those types of things, but things that tend to slow us down in our progress and do nothing but hinder us. And so that's where obvious architecture came from, as more of a mindset than necessarily a framework of being able to cut through all the garbage and all the fluff to get to the things that are obvious when we design systems and we implement systems, in particular in technology. From there, we understand that if we can empower people through knowledge, and when someone's empowered, they have the ability to accomplish something, right? And they know it. It gives them the confidence that they need to succeed. They can take off on their own. Enabling is doing something challenging for another individual, while empowering is teaching someone and giving them the ability to do it for themselves. So enabling is just letting someone keep doing what they've always been doing and doing it well. So we strive for that, obviously. We have services that we offer as fractional. We can be fractional people inside of teams. We can embed in teams. We'll do staffing. We also generate project work. We have another thing called a retainer. We have certain individuals that may be retained, much like you would retain a lawyer. For short periods of times, or 5 or 10 hours a week. That's your hours for whatever you need them to work on, or even less than that. And then we also have a thing that's a little bit more intensive. I call it a dream team. It's actually modeled after the 92 Olympic basketball team. And it's about kind of breaking the norms. Most psychologists will tell you that you can't have really great individuals all on the same team. You can't have a team full of rock stars. Well, the Beatles was a team full of rock stars and they were successful. So you just have to be able to manage that team of rock stars a little bit differently. And that gives organizations the best of the best in every category they have. So that's kind of the gist of what we do at Obvious Architecture.
Thanks. That's really good to hear. I was thinking when I was hearing you, I saw a really community vibrant too. I wonder if one day you will be creating hackathons and with the community of building and teaching and learning and mentoring. So, who knows? It might be obvious in the future. But I want to start with the health equity, because I know everyone's really excited about AI, but I would say the best thing that we need to do on this is it's really take it with the health equity. So I've heard you do a lot in the area of health equity, and a lot of companies are talking about it, but you are actually engaged in it. Can you share a little more about what you're doing and how this is going?
Yeah, there's a lot of people doing a lot of lip service, unfortunately. And I've had several situations where I can tell a story about something that really needs attention. People get excited, and then you call them the next day and they completely drop off. So whenever we were forming up Obvious Architecture, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we did was that we were very much engaged with trying to change the world. And as part of that, I'm also the vice president of an organization called the Light of the World Ministry. And as part of that organization, we are active in Sierra Leone. We have 5 orphanages with 92 orphans in it. We sponsor and run 22 schools that has over 6,000 students. We also support 18 churches. We have a widows group supporting widows of 70 widows. And I'm actively trying to build, believe it or not, a hospital in the jungle in Sierra Leone. And so basically it's a mud hut by most American standards, but it's more than what a lot of people have. And by that, we begin to focus on what health equity actually is. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has said that health equity is, the state in which everyone has a fair and just opportunity to obtain the highest level of health. And so that's more than just data or technology. That's the entire conferencing thing. And the fact is that the world is segmented, whether we like it or not. And health equity is all about trying to break down those segmentations. So sometimes we do things like this. Sometimes we sponsor or support other areas. The World Health Organization, a week before last was worldwide immunization. We run a series of blogs of awareness and put those out. Maybe some of the listeners read some of those blogs. If not, I encourage you, go to obviousarchitecture.com, check them out. They're really good stuff. And so those are some of the grassroots areas that we support. One of the other things that we do something that's really crazy, because the individuals we work with are all top caliber. I mean, they're just incredible people that I have the opportunity to work with. And I'm sure that I'll probably be inundated with emails after this. We have situations where we'll work for free, where if you can come to us and present an opportunity that is viable, that gives us the ability to, reach out or change somebody's life, we'll do that too. And then I noticed you put that email up there. That's fine. You can reach me there. You can reach me at Lonnie.Buchanan at Obvious Architecture. You can reach me at Lonnie.Buchanan or Lonnie.Buchanan at LonnieBuchanan.com. So I'm easy to get hold of, whatever way that people, want to reach out. But if there's something there, we have in the past done these types of things for free, and we'll continue to do them.
So going back to health equity, what are some of the new technologies that are making a difference in health equity?
Yeah, there's a lot. They're just bombarding me literally every day. Part of my morning is trying to stay on top of new technologies. There are some new ones that have come out recently, which are more mainstream than others. We look at, we all went through the pandemic, right? And so we dealt with vaccinations and those vaccines. If we look at a company like Moderna, they use what's called messenger RNA. Now, messenger RNA, or some people know as mRNA, it's this naturally occurring information base molecule, and it constantly travels back and forth from DNA, and it retrieves genetic code. And what they did was Moderna was able to encode messenger RNA with instructions to produce these specific proteins to cure or prevent the COVID virus. And so that was one of the really first worldwide tests of mRNA. We've had them before, but it's really taken off. And now we're looking at all kinds of new vaccinations that we can focus on that are created around these types of processes. There's a new vaccine out for malaria that seems to be working fairly successful. In some countries, they're actually moving forward with that. So mRNA is one that is already established that will definitely make a change in the world today. Another thing is we found out that during the pandemic that mental health issues are much broader than what we even began to understand. And the pandemic caused more friction in that particular area. So we see companies like Talkspace, which
I think we lost Lonnie. He should be coming back. Here he is.
Did I lose you there? That was weird. Okay.
Yeah. So go ahead. You were talking about Moderna. Then you were talking about
Talkspace, maybe.
Yeah, Talkspace. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Talkspace they're a behavioral health organization that uses some modern technologies to pair individuals with particular physicians together. That requires some very extensive cloud support, some different areas along those lines. Another one that we've seen is some of the things in nursing homes. If you're familiar with nursing homes, falls detection is a major, major issue. There's a company called Kepler that has come out, and I've worked in the past in some falls detection with some other organizations. And one of the things I really liked about Kepler is they have an optical sensor that can be placed in hallways and common areas that they only need one sensor to pick these types of things up. And so they're actually using AI, and they've been using this before, all the hype around ChatGPT. And they were able to pick up when a resident falls or needs attention. But the real key with those guys is they're able to eliminate 99% of the false alarms. And if you've ever worked in falls detection, false alarms is absolutely the worst because you've got nurses running back and forth, and it may be a cat jumped up on the bed or a blanket fell off. Another one that maybe your listeners may be unaware of is one that has received federal funding and is kind of out there. It's a loose affiliation. It is the Undiagnosed Disease Network. Now, I really like the work that these guys are doing because a rare disease is something that affects fewer than 200,000 people, right? And so, but there's an extensive number of rare diseases. And believe it or not, 1 in 10 people have a rare disease, okay? And what they do is they have this massive network of data that they're able to pull together. And so if you have a rare disease and I have a rare disease, but we don't necessarily on the surface show any similarities, they can put them in there. They can run different algorithms, machine learning against it, and find out that you and I share different things, and maybe the treatments would be very, very similar. So those are some of the areas. I'm seeing, I've got one that I just seen today from MIT Research. They are using, back in the old days, it was called cat gut for sutures. It's not actually a cat gut. It's basically derived from the collagen of cattle, and they've got one from pigs now. And what makes it interesting in this case is that MIT was able to code it with different proteins, different chemicals. And so what happens is it is a biodegradable suture, but because they can also code it, it can actually detect infection, okay, and send particular proteins, which then can be checked through the urine to identify that there's infection. And it can also administer different types of medications across a period of time. Really, really exciting stuff in that area. Another one, you can just go on and on. These things are just coming out every day. If you're familiar from a while back, there was the CRISPR, which was basically caused some controversy because it's around the ability to create different DNA sequences. Basically, you're programming cells is what's happening. And now through that study, there are some very advanced treatments that are coming out that are radically changing people's lives. So these are the types of technologies that are really going to change. And you say, well, how are they going to change in the health equity space? Because a lot of the diseases that we understand or that we experience are affecting people that really have no hope. For example, let's suppose that you live in the remotest jungle in Africa and you have to have a surgery, and then there's nowhere to keep you, so they send you back. Well, obviously, we don't want to send you back with sutures that you have to come back and have taken out. If I could send you with biodegradable sutures and then call you on a cell phone, because a lot of people have cell phones all over the world, I've just eliminated all that travel required for you. So this technology is really beginning to play out in these particular areas.
Wow. I love how you covered so many areas. And I wrote down while I got a chance, just from Moderna, the cloud with, I guess, the cloud that needs to be really robust for Talkspace. And I guess that's the data sharing. I don't know, maybe there's some AI modeling going on there. Then the 99% fall detection alleviation with false alarms. I could imagine that's a huge saving. Anyway, I mean, I guess you could go on and on. You probably have a bunch of websites that give you alerts. That was just impressive. Can you share with us more? I think it would be great. Like, what is going on with AI? But first, like, what is AI? Like we're hearing all this stuff with Chat GPT, but first start with AI and have everything you've been saying sounds like we've been doing AI for the last 10 years or so. So
yeah. So okay. So you open up a really interesting discussion, and one that I'm glad that we get a chance to talk about. So in its purest sense, okay. So the first thing you have to understand is everybody has a different argument about what AI is. Everybody, they say it's this or that or whatever. So when we look at AI from a historical perspective, we say, where did all this begin with? Well, really, we started beginning all the way back when we began collecting data. So we collect data, and then we learn to generate reports from that particular data, and so we use those reports to better the whatever we were doing at the time. From the reports, we eventually kind of evolved into analytics, and we evolved into algorithms and things along those lines. That evolved into basic core machine learning. And machine learning is nothing but passing an input through and getting an output out. Now, that's way oversimplifying. And remember, I'm playing the role of CEO here and not data scientist. So I have people on my team that can answer these questions much better than I can. So, but what happens is we created these things called neural networks through machine learning, and then we learned that if we doubled up those machine learning, we create a thing called like deep learning. And so this deep learning, it can be supervised or semi-supervised or unsupervised or reinforced, all these different terms that we have. But basically what happens is in the deep learning process is it learns from itself. It can take much bigger inputs. It doesn't necessarily need people to revolve around it and pay attention to everything that's going on around it. So the AI that we snap on top of that comes from those basic learnings, but also has expanded much past that with the concepts of big data coming into the picture, where we're able to consume lots and lots of complex data. There's been advances in compute and storage, such as the cloud. You can hear them talk about GPUs. GPUs were originally created for like gaming and better video and stuff, and all this intensity of creating this. And so then we culminate it all together, and we began to produce this thing we call AI. Well, one of the most simplest definitions is basically all of this functioning in a way that gives the appearance or the ability to interact like a human would. Most AI was generated to begin with off of what we call natural language processing. And the idea was that we could create a computer that would be able to translate. Remember, like in Star Trek, you can just do the translations. It would be able to synthesize speech, or it would be able to take in speech and convert it to text. So that really began to create AI from that NLP processing. Now, that, of course, expands into speech, translation, vision, imaging, all the things that we're really starting to see in that interface that we call AI. And really, it summarizes that information. So when you get Chat GPT, which is from OpenAI right now, it originally started from that type of thing. And we can train those models, we can feed it data, and we can bias it in different ways to learn. Now, probably one of the big questions that a lot of people are trying to come up with is, what is the future? What is the future of AI look like? And if you're not beginning to think about what is the future of AI, you're probably just now trying to catch up with where AI is at, because we need to understand that the AI we have today is good at a lot of things, but it's not good at a lot of other things. Okay. And when I first started playing with large language models, I treated it like Google. I'd ask you a question. I'd say, hey, where can I go find this? And the reality of it is I needed to learn how to communicate with it. So you hear a lot of people talk about things like prompts. So I needed to learn how to use AI before I could properly begin to use it. AI is good at knowledge, but it's not good at wisdom. Okay. And the difference, and this is an obvious architecture quote, the difference between knowledge and wisdom: knowledge is information, wisdom is knowing how to use it properly. I've personally trained and worked on, 4 open source large language models to the point where people have read stuff over my shoulder and went, "That's creepy." And it's just being able to interact and get those responses back. So we need to be able to do more than just repeat facts back, but we need to do things that people do naturally. And so what happens is if we're going to interact with these things naturally, we've got to not only do we have to understand that it's trained to think like a human, it also carries a lot of the faults of humanity. And just like a human, there are things that it can't really do very well right now. If you're familiar with some of the things that the government has been trying to do through Boston Dynamics and some of the other robotics companies, where they've placed AI into robots, you'll know that they're very good at assessing the situation, but they struggle opening a door.
Folding laundry, I hear.
Folding laundry. These are basic things because the human brain actually thinks different than that. And so we're learning how to understand those things. In my own personal stuff, I've had just crazy hallucinations. And hallucinations are basically where information is presented, where the AI, for whatever reason, has generated this. Maybe we've seen situations where somebody asks the AI, what is the annual revenue of a particular company, but the company didn't exist. So the AI is trying to pull from its resources and basically creates a company. And then the next thing you know, it's having this whole conversation with you. I'll tell you, probably one of the weirdest ones I ever had was I had an AI that I talked with quite frequently that constantly would tell me that he worked in an emergency room and that it was a part-time freelance reporter, and it was married and had 2 kids, and her name was Jane, but we called her Jenny, as you know, and this just went on and on, and so we have to get through those types of things. We have to get. I've got one right now that is telling me he's a program coder and can give me code. And so we've got to be able to understand that. Some of the other things that large language models in particular aren't really that good with is they're really not as good as you think they are with language translation. We still have a lot of problems with language translation. Believe it or not, this one kind of blew me away. They're not that good with complicated math. We have when we do tests on large language models, we typically all have a set of questions that we ask it, that'll give us a response, and we can tell how good it is through logic and things like that. And so we've got to get past those, and we've got to get past the problems that we have. Well, okay, so we get past that. You hear a lot of things that are going on in Washington and everything right now. You hear a lot of people talking about are they safe? Well, the reality of it is it's here. In the 80s, the calculator was here. And how many math professors was like, you're destroying the students, you're doing, and now you can't take a college class without having a particular style of calculator. You have to have that. And so that's kind of the state that AI is in. And one of the things that we have to be able to do is we have to be able to realize that it's here. I don't care how many regulations you put on it, what governments do this and what governments do that. There's always going to be people that are going to be trying to do these types of things. I just found out today that there was a large language model that was built out of South Korea for research that was completely trained off the dark web. And so these are things that you're going to have to approach and you have to deal with. So how do we approach and how do we deal with these? And as organizations, we need to start taking looks at the other companies and what they're doing and the way they're bringing it forward. So one of the things that we really need to focus on is governance. We need to focus on the way governance is around these AIs. And we need to be careful because a lot of large AI organizations are pushing our government to put certain regulations in place. However, if those regulations are put in place, they're good for the big businesses, they're bad for the open source community. Okay. And right now, there are a lot of things that the open source community is competing neck and neck with. There is a large language model just released last week called MTP that actually can intake larger sets of data than GTP. So there's all these different people at play. If you begin to set that type of regulation in place, only the big organizations will be able to do that, and we'll lose, and we're going to lose that to other countries because they've got, every country out there is trying to train their own model. So we need to focus on what governance looks like and putting regulations in place, in particular around healthcare and being able to protect those types of things. And one of the most exciting areas that I see around this is the rise again of blockchain. Okay. Now, a lot of people go, oh, that's Bitcoin, not Bitcoin blockchain, the underlying technology around blockchain, because it is trusted and it does actually work. And we could use blockchain as a means of putting things into place to allow for governance and ensuring that these large language models adhere to those particular things. The other thing, blockchain opens up, we've talked about for years, different ways around our healthcare records and what that could mean around the healthcare records and being able to protect those. And just like, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is a group of individuals that you don't necessarily have to pay into, but, part of, we could keep these types of groups volunteer, much like WC3, things along those lines. So that is from a governance standpoint. Now, you still haven't got past the idea of what about morality? If you're going to act like a human, then humans try to adhere to morality. And so there are other people in the world that are trying to take this type of thing on. And we have to be careful because from a human standpoint, we have to deal with politics. We have to deal with culture. We have to deal with religion. We have to deal with emotions. We have to deal with all these types of things. And if we're creating an AI to act like a human, that AI is going to conquer or have to address or have to take into consideration the same things we do as people. There's an interesting person right now, Yijin Cho, and she is with University of Washington. I had to think about that one for a minute. She is actually creating these smaller little translators, these little things that you kind of hang off during training. They're almost like little pods, and they address certain points of understanding or morality. And as you train those models, those individual things have to be taken into place, have to review what's going on. You say, well, that's kind of crazy. Will it actually work? That's all the way we did data stewardship. Remember when we first entered data stewardship into organizations, we split it up among different business units and said, here's your data, here's your data, here's your data. Is it correct? Is it correct? Is it correct? It's kind of the same idea. Here is your point or group point of understanding what we should and should not do. Is it or is it not doing that type of thing? So those are some really, really exciting things. Beyond that, a lot of people ask me about, future, where do we go from here? What types of things. We also have to look at what holds us back right now in AI. What is slowing us down? What is the big thing? Obviously, compute is huge. Compute is really slowing us down. And we have these massive machines with lots of GPUs, and they have to run for a really long time, and they have to run in the cloud, and it costs a lot of money to run all these types of things. How do we overcome that? Well, there's lots of new chipsets that are being developed. There's lots of new networking technologies, lots of new things around that. But we've almost forgot about one of the areas that we were very focused on a year ago, and that is the area of quantum computing. And quantum computing giving the ability, instead of like a normal computer, to read a book one letter at a time, now we can read the whole book at one time. So quantum computing opens up a really new, interesting area in AI that could bring those massive amounts to compute to us. We're also seeing that the AI models are getting trained much better. And because they're getting trained much better, they're actually getting smaller. If you watch Google, their release last week of the Palm 2, the notices around the Palm 2, the Gecko version is so small, it will run on a mobile device. And so the architectures of those are getting much better. And then in the end, from a healthcare perspective, what is the next thing? What is the thing that comes after that? Well, Michael, if you give me AI and I can interact with it like a human and I can explain to it what my hurt, what my pain is, and it's able to conceive and pick, and be able to help the doctor or help other specialists or even on its own derive those particular things, then we can take all this information we have and we can begin to reach that holy grail that we've been shooting for of the digital twin. And actually creating a digital twin of you, then we can computationally and through programming introduce different types of treatment to see how that will affect you before we actually do it to you. So
I think we need to do a repeat on that. That was like right there. That was like a mind explosion. Lonnie just threw out what was called the digital twin.
Digital twins, yeah.
So that's really safe in efficacy. Like basically do no harm, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do any treatment. You're doing it to that virtual twin.
Yeah. If I can recreate you or even recreate parts of you or even synthetically, that's one of the areas people have talked about. What do we do about electronic medical records when we go overseas with people who don't have records? Well, the answer to that is creating synthetic records that are very close to who you are because there's certain features we understand about you. I can synthetically create certain elements about you and see what's going to happen, because once I have the compute of like quantum computing, once I have the intelligence of an actual full AI with many diversely trained data sets that are particularly focused on healthcare, and once that's obviously overseen by individuals from a medical profession, then I can actually mock you up in real time and real space to see what's going to fix you and what's not.
Wow. So when did you start reading science fiction?
I've been playing in technology, like you said, a really long time.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things is a lot of things may seem like science fiction, but we're actually a lot closer to a lot of things than people realize. We're actually delving into areas that are quite innovative, quite incredible. Years ago, I worked on a medical patch. And I just wrote a blog about this. You can check it out on Obvious Architecture. But some of the new patches that are coming now that are, they don't hurt. And they're able to carry medication for long periods of time on the patch itself. So if you have slowly administered medication like insulin or something like that, I can basically put a Band-Aid on you. Mm-hmm. This is the year that we probably suspect that we'll be getting really good at medical patches that monitor, and all my friends that worked with me on this will be going, no, don't say it, that we can actually monitor effectively different vital signs. Mm-hmm. And I worked on that, I worked on a vital sign patch, 10 years ago.
Wow.
And so these things are coming into play.
So basically remote patient monitor about as fast as if you can get. Like, gosh, that's super cool, right?
And it's cheaper. It's cheaper to do that. If you ask most people, they'll say, what's the biggest problem with remote patient monitoring? Or what is the biggest problem when I send you home and tell you to check your blood pressure? Well, the problem is your blood pressure monitor is not my blood pressure monitor. It's not how accurate is it? All these types of things. If I can reduce that down to an individual Band-Aid that I, as a doctor, provide for you. Mm-hmm. Okay. I know what you're getting and I know what results I need to do. Many doctors have told me if I can see the pattern and I know where the pattern should be or should not be, then I understand the results much better.
And that people actually are doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, the behavior is the hardest thing, right? You know?
Yeah. And I can send you, like I said, go back to the jungle scenario, because health equity is beyond just the United States. It's worldwide. If I can put one of these patches on you in the jungle or send you in with patches, then you can broadcast over your phone back to me.
Yeah.
It's a total different change in the world.
Lonnie, this has been an amazing journey. I feel like we have to have like a 7 series part for you. You are like just a wealth of knowledge. I think if there's one guy on Star Trek that rings a bell to me, it's almost like Data. You are data, full of data and knowledge. This has been awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So we got about like 5 minutes left. I wish I could go longer. I could go forever with Lonnie with the amount of knowledge he's outputting, input, output, little reference to artificial intelligence. I have a play that I have to attend. My daughter's in a play, so forgive me. We'll have to be cutting it in about 5 minutes. So Lonnie, we still have time. I'm just letting our audience know, and you. And believe it or not, we just had someone dare enough to give you a shout out. It's a friend of yours.
Oh, who is it? Who is it?
Lonnie is the
hey.
best. So Michelle's like, hey.
He's awesome. We worked together for years.
All right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to say hi to Lonnie, and not just hi, you can ask him a question. My gosh, I learned so much about artificial intelligence and you name it. So of course, I don't think we're going to necessarily, when you either, it's all or nothing here. You get so many comments and so many things, but if you want to help us with just, we've been talking a ton about artificial intelligence, health equity. Is there anything that we missed on the cloud and AI? Is there any other things that you think are really some important takeaways?
Yeah, I think one of the things is we're seeing some other adoptions. We're so focused on AI right now that we're missing some of the other adoptions that are out there. In this year, obviously most of the cloud spending is going to be around security posturing. There is huge amounts that are going into AI, based types of scenarios. Lots of money are going into existing infrastructure. Totally expecting adoption of 5G to really take on. And then, of course, after the pandemic and after all the security issues, we're seeing a lot of disaster recovery and business continuity. So those are some of the biggest areas. Cloud-wise, everybody's in there.
So we have a question from Michelle. This is great. So give some great AI primers for the novice folks to learn more. What resources do you like? This is basically for everyone, 98% of the population.
Next week, Obvious Architecture blog, I'll release one. How's that sound?
Yeah, but you're also going to have to put it on planetary health, some takeaways from planetary health. You're going to have to double up on that, right?
I think the biggest thing is
I don't know. We've lost, of all times, a highly technical person. We lost him today and having some issues on technology, but he'll be with us backstage. I don't know if we're just having here. Yeah, we lost you. Of all things, I don't know if it's my connection or yours, but the most technical people, right? That's you, not me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the question is where can I find some information on this? And once again, there's a lot of really good resources out there. Most of the major vendors have introductory things. Microsoft, Oracle, AWS, Azure has some really great things. So I would say that try those, take a look at those, or email me. You know what, Michelle, why don't you email me, Lonnie.Buchanan at obviousarchitecture.com. Kent Christensen, another friend of mine. Hey, Kent. I would imagine there's going on HIPAA. Oh, yeah. So tomorrow, I've been invited to an open forum. The federal government is looking at trying to figure out regulations around AI and how they're going to handle those. You got to remember, HIPAA tends to be a little bit vague in these areas, so it'll probably be High Trust that's going to have to come in and formulate some really specific stuff. Most of it is going to be around privacy and security. Now, I know we're kind of running out of time, Michael, but I do want to call this out. And Kent and I have worked together too for years. This is really, really important that people understand. Before the open AI, GTP types things really hit, we were just beginning to get into litigation around things like ad tracking and cookies, and in particular, where's that data going? And there is some things. I actually was in a webinar with like 10 lawyers. It was a drain. If there's any lawyers out there, I'm sorry, it was draining. And but it's all around that personal identification information that we've been giving away to these search engines for years. Can be reaccumulated on the back end and can reform certain parts of privacy that we have to be very, very careful about. So we're going to see a lot of things coming around privacy in particular. We also transparency and accountability. Where did they get the data? This is a big problem right now. Even with the Palm 2 stuff coming from Google, they never did, and nor did ChatGPT give us full answers on where the data was trained from. And that's going to be a problem, especially in healthcare moving forward. So we're really going to have to understand where the information comes from.
Lonnie, we have to have you back.
Oh, I'd love to come back. This is great.
I
Maybe
think
we'll pick something different.
We're gonna maybe some short segments too.
Sure.
I just think a series. You're just a wealth of knowledge. I've learned so much. I know so many people have learned so much, and you really. I think the power of you is your two-part. You have such a massive knowledge of it and experience, but the communication. You're excellent at communicating such complex to simple. I guess it's like obvious, right? It's obvious.
It's obvious architecture.
Yeah. All right. So I thank you, everyone. I thank you, friends. I thank you, Lonnie, for being our special guest. And we're going to do our little outro. So I'm going to be real quiet right now while we do our outro. We're going to say goodbye. Friends, it's been such a great journey today on Planetary Health First, Mars Next. Feel free to follow us. Just type in Planetary Health First, Mars Next on the internet. Until next time.